Mr. Carter.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I thank the gentleman for hosting this. And this is certainly a very important subject, one that I'm very familiar with. And it's indeed an epidemic in our country. There's not a state nor a district that hasn't been touched by this problem, as countless people have succumbed to this issue. That issue is the use of opioids and its devastating impact on our communities. Recent data showed that overdose deaths have jumped by over 50% in the decade leading up to 2015. In addition, nearly 1,300 people died in Georgia in 2015 from drug overdoses. These are statistics that need to be urgently addressed. We have made great progress with the passage of the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, but we have an opportunity to do more. One staggering statistic is that last year, it's estimated that roughly 60,000 people died from drug overdoses, a number that is far too high. Just earlier this month, 4 people in central Georgia died in a matter of 2 days due to opioid overdoses from falsely labeled drugs. That instance is not only troubling because it reflects growing painkiller use in the rural parts of my state, but because it also represents another problem: counterfeit and fake drugs. An issue that I've been working on is the growing trend of drugs and drug ingredients being ordered abroad and delivered through the mail to addresses around the country. A recent Wall Street Journal article mentioned the synthetic opioids that are being brought into this country and the methods by which they're doing it. An example of one of those drugs is fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that is wreaking havoc across the country. We must not only look at the types of drugs that are used, but also how people are acquiring them and ways to effectively limit that. Our enforcement personnel are working diligently with the Postal Service to find ways to curb this trend, such as using advanced data. But it's a topic that needs more work. By cutting off their ability to purchase these dangerous synthetic opioids, we can help to limit this epidemic. As a lifelong pharmacist, I've seen firsthand the dangers and problems associated with opioid abuse and its impact on our communities. I look forward to working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to counter this trend in hopes of saving lives. Again, I want to thank the gentleman for bringing this tonight and for hosting this. So very vital to our country. And thank you for allowing me to speak.
Well, the gentleman yield from. I want
I yield.
to ask you a question. As a pharmacist, when people come into the pharmacy for you, for example, if they want to get Sudafed, a cold medication, they have to go through some special process? It's behind the counter, right?
That is correct.
Now, what if they want to pick up an opioid prescription? Do they have to show an ID? Are they required by law to have the same kind of restrictions?
Yes, they are. They have to show an ID in order to pick it up. Now, the prescription itself is a C2 prescription, so that as long as if we don't recognize them at the pharmacy, we have to ask for the ID to make sure that is indeed the person who is picking it up. We also have a program in Georgia, in fact, a program that you're very familiar with, the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, that allows us to go and check a database to see if that person has actually been doctor shopping or it's pharmacy shopping and getting it at other places. And that has helped us. It's a great tool in fighting this epidemic.
But as you know, the gentleman knows that has data within the state, but across state lines, that data is still not populated yet.
That is one of the major problems. For instance, in my practice, I practiced in Savannah, Georgia, which is South Carolina line and only 2 hours from the Florida state line. That was a constant problem for us. I could look at my data all day long, but I wouldn't know whether they had got something filled in South Carolina or in Florida.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's a problem we're going to have to fix in our committee. I want to call up Bill Johnson next from Ohio, Eastern Ohio. Speaking of being able to jump across state lines and have prescriptions filled, minutes away from the Pennsylvania-West Virginia border, could travel down there, and also part of that the deadly area along the Ohio Valley where so much of this is occurring.